Morning, Chair McCollum, Ranking Member Joyce, staff. Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you here today. As you all know, I represent South Carolina's 1st Congressional District, a district blessed with incredible coastline, good fishing, and clean waterways. And I'm here to relay my district's concerns about the administration's proposals to bring both offshore drilling and harmful seismic airgun blasting to Atlantic waters, including those off my district, as well as those off the Pacific and the eastern Gulf of Mexico, which together support over 2.6 million American jobs and roughly $180 billion in GDP through tourism, fishing, and recreation. Beginning in 1982 and for nearly 3 decades, members of Congress listened to the concerns of the people they served and restricted funding for federal offshore oil and gas leasing and drilling activities via the appropriations process. Thank you for working with me and our colleagues to reestablish similar provisions through amendments of the FY 2020 Interior Environment Appropriations Bills to limit spending on offshore oil and gas leasing along the aforementioned coast. And I'd urge you to include offshore drilling and exploration moratoria again as you craft the FY 2021 base bill. It is vital that we engage the Senate to ensure these provisions are included in the final package. And without these moratoria provisions, we relinquish our role in influencing the future of offshore drilling to the executive branch. Across the board, the expansion of offshore drilling is a threat to hardworking Americans, coastal economies, and marine life. When oil companies drill, they spill. Oil spills have lasting consequences as well, we know from the 2010 Deepwater Horizon tragedy, which claimed the lives of 11 rig workers and spewed more than 200 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico as engineers tried and failed to cap the blowout. Oil exposure destroyed fragile marine ecosystems. Tourism dropped throughout the region alongside beach closures and fishing restrictions, and real estate value declined in several Gulf Coast communities. Next month marks the 10th year anniversary of this terrible accident, yet the dangerous and dirty culture of offshore drilling remains largely unchanged. In fact, last year the Trump administration took a step backward by weakening one of the few rules that had been implemented to prevent another Deepwater Horizon-like disaster. Through the appropriations process, we have the power to block funding for the risky offshore development and prevent another large-scale spill before it happens. Despite the administration's stated abandonment of its 5-year OCS plan, harmful oil exploration is imminent in the Atlantic Ocean if the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management issues final permits to seismic companies. Seismic airgun blasting in search of oil goes directly against the interests and wishes of my constituents. Creating one of the loudest man-made sounds in the ocean, noise from seismic airguns can disturb, injure, and even kill animals across the entire marine ecosystem. This unnecessary harm to the environment stands to threaten the Atlantic marine resources that support over 1.5 million jobs and generate nearly $108 billion in GDP each year, mainly through tourism, fishing, and recreation. Any potential benefits of oil exploration are far outweighed by the stable, recurring revenue and jobs that our communities receive from healthy oceans. Exposing our vibrant ocean resources to incredibly loud seismic airgun blasting and dangerous offshore drilling is simply not worth the risk. We are depending on your support again this year as you write and negotiate the FY 2021 Interior Environment Appropriations Bill. I'd ask that you make it a priority to restrict funding for any new offshore oil leasing or related activities, including seismic airgun blasting in the Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and Eastern Gulf of Mexico. Please back our coastal communities, which have voiced consistent opposition to dangerous oil and gas activities, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify here today.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. And as you pointed out, it did become part of our base bill. The support of the entire body of members when that amendment was on was rock solid. So, bipartisan in that. And Mr. Joyce, we need to thank Mr. Cunningham for not bringing his air horn with him. He did when he was in natural resources and sounded the alarm with it. So thank you for being here and sounding the alarm on what could happen to our coastal communities. You did an excellent job. Mr. Joyce?
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham, for being here and discussing those issues that are important to your district, and certainly have heard you, and we'll try to help where we can.
Thank you, Mr. Joyce.